Everyone is sharing this petition or talking about it or whatever, which is still collecting signatures, 2.5 million. So if it carries on at this rate, it'll definitely go to 3 million. I don't actually know if real people are signing it or if it's just bots now or what. But I just wanted to. There's quite a few things to say about this petition if the signatures are not legitimate. But whoever checks the signatures, because the government can only check the postcodes are legitimate with the names who signed, and do they check all of them when it's hundreds of thousands? They don't know for certain whose those email addresses are. That's the thing. It's the email addresses which they don't know for sure, unless they've previously got them on record. But some people have got multiple addresses. Now, I think this has been staged and set up, and I think that it's been staged and set up with this specifically with this general election petition because it's concerning an election. If it was a petition about getting a new park or a petition about I don't know, the tax on peanuts or something like that, change the tax on peanuts, ban smoking or whatever. But the fact that it's about an election and trying to get an election, pursuing an election or referendum, makes it unique because there are lots of laws around elections and influencing or affecting elections. I just want to mention this video actually before I go into the actual discussion. So this is this Susie woman. Now, I've never heard of her before, but it seems like that she is a YouTuber who is quite popular, at least within her own circles. Now, she's called Susie. How do any of these people get so many views or not? We never know who's playing with algorithms behind the scenes. We know that Claire Dyer was saying that her group was losing views or losing statistics. She's had her profile duplicated, so has Kingsley Hamilton multiple times, like with hundreds of thousands of followers and so forth. These people have been targeted. Now what this Susie says, I don't know if I'm gonna play. I can't play the video because I'm not a member of TikTok. I don't have TikTok, and it's on TikTok, so I can only kind of view it. In fact, I'm lucky that it's on now because the screen kept going off and loads of pop-ups coming up to say that to download the app or whatever. But what she's saying is, she says that Keir Starmer has claimed that he's going to send the police around to everyone's house, or he's going to put some kind of order through Parliament, a respect order or something like that, to everyone who signed the petition, right? Now, why would he do that if it's the most protective right that there is to petition the government? Because you're meant to have Parliament privileges and you're not meant to be allowed to be prosecuted in any way, right? So why would Starmer say this? I might try and play this video.
Good morning, guys. Well, Keir Starmer is apparently threatening to give everybody a respect order that has signed the petition. Now, I've just looked up what a respect order is, and I'm going to read it to you. A respect order is meeting a manifesto pledge to crack down on all anti-social behaviour. The new respect order will give the police and local councils the power to ban prospective offenders from town centres drinking in public spots such as high streets and local parks. And it will also stop perpetrators from, undertake positive rehabilitation, and failure to comply with the respect order will be a criminal offence. Police will have the ability to immediately arrest anyone who is breaching the respect order. So in other words, he's saying that we're being antisocial by signing a petition. And if we all carry on signing the petition, we can be arrested because it's antisocial. What a load of shit.
So, Starmer with this respect order, right? What Starmer's doing is propaganda, and he's actually scaring people and trying to put them off signing the petition, which is a wind-up. He might have a manifesto, and he might be wanting to do these respect orders, but there's a lot going on with this petition at the moment in respect to kind of like legal conjunction. Now, it's quite complicated and there's a lot of factors to it, but I'll try to explain them for anyone who's interested. I don't really think that many people are interested, but this petition has created a lot of legal contradictions, that of convergence, a very rare convergence of legal technical issues, right? Now, all that stuff what Starmer's putting out is aggravating, intimidating, and worrying the situation further. He might have this respect order, and he might be going to put all these laws through or whatever. But in respect to, for the reason of signing the petition, he cannot prosecute, accuse, or lay any informations against anyone for signing a petition if you did legitimately sign it, right? No matter what the subject is. You can't do that if you just signed it and you did sign it, right? Now, here's the thing. The government have been hiding information to do with the fact that we are all protected when we do petitions under Parliament privileges and under the right to petition additionally as well. You can't be prosecuted for anything for signing it or creating it or going about sharing it or anything. So by scaring and threatening you, he's actually trying to deter and put you off doing it. If the police come round... Now, this is when I said if it wasn't a petition about an election, it would be a little bit different. But because the petition could be about anything, like I say, the tax on peanuts or whatever. Have you ever heard about this locking on term when Extinction Rebellion aren't allowed to lock on to things or whatever? Because it's a petition about an election, it's locked on the election subject because it's in pursuit of an election, therefore it's concerning an election, and therefore it's about an election and trying to get one. Now, if the police come around to your house and they in any way tell you to not sign a petition which is connected to an election, well, not sign one anyway. They're not allowed to tell you not to sign a petition anyway. But because it's about an election, it strongly highlights or affirms, or it strongly comes into enforceable law that the Representation of the People Act, Section 100, the police aren't allowed to canvass elections, which means they're not allowed to affect the outcome of an election at all in any way or intervene unless someone's broke the law. Now, if anyone has signed the petition, right? If the police intimidate people to not sign that petition, they are affecting the outcome of an election, or even that there's going to be an election. So that's actually a criminal offence that the police are engaged in. Because if they go around houses and intimidate or deter people from signing this petition, that's an offence by the police, right? But this is the catch. this is where it gets complicated, right? It does say that it's a breach of a privileges if you commit fraud or forgery. And that's what the government don't want you to know, because then all of the Parliament and the Lords, if they commit fraud or forgery, they forfeit their privileges, even though they're the ones who ultimately decide, but we can call them out on it, like Lord Hanningfield, right? It was decided Lord Hanningfield couldn't be prosecuted in the court. But if he breaches privileges, he can be prosecuted in the court. But who decides that is Parliament. But if we know that it's a breach of privilege if they commit fraud, then when we identify fraud, we know that they can be prosecuted. Like Boris Johnson, for example, rather than just stepping down, he actually could face justice, right? Not just step down, could face criminal prosecution, which they're not doing. Or they're only doing for things like, I don't know, possession of drugs or punching someone in the street, not for anything they do in Parliament. But if they are committing fraud or forgery for things they're doing in Parliament, that's a breach of privileges and they can be prosecuted, but they're meant to be their own judges of it. But us knowing that they can face criminal prosecution, not just standing down, then we will make them do something about it. Like they used to lock them up in the Tower of London all the time, nights, so a rally, whatever, which they don't do that to each other anymore, but they're meant to, for things they've done in Parliament, not for crimes and offences out of Parliament, actually for frauds in Parliament, not complete immunity, just, resign and stand down. They didn't want us to really know that, but they didn't want us to know that we, ourselves, can have privileges as long as we don't commit fraud. That means that we can't be prosecuted for crimes and offences or things that we needed to do in order to investigate or try a cause legitimately, right? Or at least you can be reserved for judgment from Parliament. But why it matters is that if people fraudulently sign this petition is getting unprecedented number of signatures, right? It's going up now while we're looking at it, If this is a bot, right? If a bot's doing it, that's a criminal offence. But if people are signing it like multiple times, like signing it themselves and faking emails and signatures, or they're signing, you're not supposed to sign for the members of the family, which I didn't know. I thought it was like an election. For an election, you're allowed to be a proxy for a family member if they can't get there. So you can lawfully vote for your mum if she is ill, right? You can go down and vote for her if you've got the right identity and cards and so forth, right? So I thought that for petitioning it would be the same because it's like voting. But it's not. Apparently you can only sign for yourself, right? Also, what happens if you get someone to help you and they go get false signatures and you didn't know? Right? That's out of your control. But obviously the person who did it is the person who broke the law, not you, right? If you didn't, if you said get me legitimate signatures, but they don't, they get false ones, you didn't do the offence, right? So you have got privileges and you've got these very powerful immunities, but if you lie or commit fraud, then you're actually committing an offence, and it's forfeiting your privileges. But you're still not meant to be able to be arrested by the police or imprisoned because of privileges of Parliament. Parliament are your judges, right? You get to be tried by Parliament, not the courts. So they won't be able to prosecute in the normal courts anyway, right? So there's a contradiction there. Now this is the thing. This is where it takes a little bit more thinking, and I don't even know if most people can follow me on this, but this is why someone set this up to be an event, and most people are just like, going about it, being excited that there's all these signatures, and then Starmer's saying this, and so another woman's saying that, and there's all these other things being said about it, and people panicking or whatever, right? So this is the contradiction, right? So you cannot be prosecuted for signing a petition, right? You cannot be if you sign it honestly and legitimately, and you're protected. But if some people have signed it, and some people sign it illegitimately, and the government don't know who really did sign it and who didn't, they would have to investigate it, right? But it can't really be prosecuted or tried by the police, although the Parliament themselves haven't got enough Parliament officers, Sergeant-at-Arms, Black Rod, to go out and investigate it on a parliamentary level. They'll have to use the police to investigate it. But this is the thing. If you have legitimately signed it, right, the police are committing an offence if they come around to your house and try to prosecute you, or even give informations on you, or anything like that, for this order that Starmer said, his stupid respect order, or even putting any restriction on you, or any condition, restriction, all of this social going out in public, all that tosh, right? If for signing a petition, right, that's illegal. Now, if you have legitimately signed a petition and a police officer comes to your house with any information against you, claiming that they've got any right to do anything to you through law, you can arrest that police officer because he is making a criminal offence against you, and you can arrest the police officer, right? You've got a legal right to arrest him. He's committed a crime. If he deters anyone in your house from signing the petition, or scares or frightens them because it's a general election petition, he's committing the criminal offence, additionally, of illegal police canvassing, because he is deterring people from signing the petition. But also, if people in the house haven't signed it, and he's letting them know about the petition because he's questioning you, he's actually advertising it, because he's promoting the petition to people in the house or neighbourhood while through investigating, and that's illegal police canvassing, right? Although there is an exemption from that if they're doing proper police duties, right? But if you've legitimately signed it, it's actually criminal for him to come against you with informations or legal motion. Now, but in order for them to find out who signed it, right, and who didn't, they need to know who did and who didn't, right? And only the people who have signed it are the ones who could possibly have signed it fraudulently. So they've got to go out and ask people, or they can't discover the truth, right? So that's going about a proper police function, but because it's under the jurisdiction of Parliament, it's not really meant to be for the police to investigate on a local level in respect to Magistrates' Court or Crown Court. I don't know if the Parliament can direct the normal police to investigate you and lay the information to Parliament or not, right? But if you have legitimately signed it honestly, it's actually illegal for them really to come against you. Now, if they're just questioning you, right, going through normal police procedures, but there is certain, through the Representation of the People Act, usually quite serious election fraud, right, isn't prosecuted through the courts and doesn't have the police investigating it through the criminal procedure rules. It's an election petition. Most serious offences with elections are prosecuted with a special procedure called an election petition. And if it's so big of a matter, they actually have to call the election off. Now, because such a large number of people have signed this, and potentially could be a lot of illegitimate signatures, that would be likely the equivalent of a serious incident enough to call an election off, like the Mayor of London, right? Which what I was complaining to the Electoral Commission about for Stop ULEZ, because, you know, the Conservative Party were providing entertainment, getting free advertising, which wasn't through their spending cap, holding public meetings, many councillors helping out, using council vehicles, travel funds, councillors, the whole thing. There was a mass misdemeanors of electoral interference, which just wasn't accounted for in the spending funds of either parties, which give advantage or disadvantage to either parties on a large scale. Rees-Mogg, you know, he's providing entertainment to the public and making a hell of a lot of money out of it, and that affects his electors. He's giving them entertainment effectively, which was illegal, you know. That's a criminal offence as well, you know, but Ofcom didn't do anything to him. Well, they did. They said that he'd done something wrong, but they didn't take. They didn't make the Privileges Committee take criminal action against him through Parliament. Which in fact, when it says that it's decided that frauds and forgeries are a breach of privileges, well, Rees-Mogg's breach of privilege for that offence. It's an electoral offence. Because the elections have to be controlled fairly. It's not like the right to petition protects you from certain offences, because you need to do those in order to achieve your objectives. Whereas the opposite with Mogg is that he is not allowed to do that to achieve his objectives. The police are allowed to do certain things to achieve their objectives, but there's certain things they're not allowed to do. We can do certain things to achieve our objectives, but we seem to be getting prosecuted. And at least even we could plead this general pardon under the jurisdiction of Parliament, which we're not even getting anywhere near what we're supposed to be getting, but yet they've been giving Rees-Mogg and other people way more than what they should. They've been going the other way. With us, they've been reining in our capacity, and then with the MPs and Mogg, they've been going the other way. They've been winding them out, right? So they're going beyond the capacity, while we're being kept way within the capacity. So we're being cheated rather than being on par to the law, right? So we've got this. The police are just following. If the police genuinely have to try and investigate who signed or who didn't sign, but they can't investigate through the jurisdiction of the police force, I don't think, because it's under the privileges of Parliament. So it would have to be a special Parliament department or something, I would have thought. If it's online, I would have thought that this Starmer plan is tosh. I would have thought that this police knocking on doors and all this social order thing is absolute tosh. If it was Parliament, and if they did suspect people of signing falsely, then because it's all online only, they should and could use that 77th Brigade to check, but they'd have to check millions of signatures, but tough, right? They got them to take down stuff off social media, so they'd have to use Parliament privileges and intelligence to do it, I would have thought, online, you know, and if it takes them searching millions of signatures, then tough, that's their problem, right? I don't think they can just send the police around knocking on people's doors. Parliament have got to check them, really, you know. They'll have to use some kind of, you would have thought they'd have to, if it was that bad, if it's 2 million signatures or 3 million, you would have thought that if Starmer believes they are illegitimate, Starmer would have really to do what you call an inquiry through the Inquiries Act 2005. Should it appear to a minister, right, that something on large scale fraud or so ever in relation to Parliament or matters of church or state need investigation, then he should Well, the petitions committee can assign subcommittees and so forth, but it's not going to be Jamie Stone knocking around with David Baines on a Tuesday evening. I would have thought that if I was in the government now when I was making a decision for this, what I would do, or what the correct procedure is, to have a public inquiry into this petition after it's finished, or maybe even after the 6 months has run. But then again, people are wanting this general election now, not in 6 months. He will have to have an inquiry. And because the inquiry doesn't actually prosecute anyone, it can refer matters to the High Court, but it runs through to its conclusion, right? What the inquiry would do would call witnesses, it would direct investigations through the authority of the inquiry, but not to prosecute or restrict or inhibit or threaten or deter or all this time tosh, don't go out on the streets, we're keeping you in certain areas, all this tosh, right? Merely investigate to find truth and fact. I would have thought that the inquiry probably had powers to engage the security, the intelligence services, to get the evidence and not take any action against anyone, just to get the figures, to say, has there been a large-scale disruption in the petition? But that's the equivalent of a large-scale disruption in an election. And then he could say the petition is void, right? And it probably wouldn't be worth taking any action against anyone for it, because most people might not have known. Now, this is where the evil twist comes into it, right? Some people don't know that you're not supposed to sign petitions for other people or so forth, or they don't know that it's a particular fraud offence or whatever. And where it tells you that is in the Erskine May book, right? And the Erskine May book is meant to be on the Parliament website, but they've taken that bit out because that's the bit that tells them that we have got privileges and immunities, but also tells them that ministers can be prosecuted and don't have immunities when they commit fraud or forgery, which they didn't want us to know because with Lord Hanningfield, right? For example, it could have helped Patrick Gibbs KC with his case that it's a forfeit of privilege, although usually Parliament get to decide, but he could have said it is a forfeit of privileges, therefore can we apply for permission to prosecute, which I've read you can do through the National Archives petitions. You can ask for permission to prosecute, right? That's what Patrick Gibbs KC could have done, or should have done with the CPS, right? Which the Attorney General can grant that, because he's Baron Hermer. Baron Hermer, because the Attorney General is Baron Hermer, he can actually himself say, it's a breach of privilege, and he can say, well, we can prosecute, or the CPS can. The Attorney General can do that. He also is meant to be a member of the Privileges Committee. So Baron Hermer can actually say to the Director of Public Prosecutions, I give you consent to prosecute Lord Hanningfield, right? Breach of privilege. He can do that, which Patrick Gibbs KC seemed to be completely clueless about that area of law, even though he's a King's Counsel. You'd have thought more, but, there you go. And there are books and books and books on privilege, because I've got them piled up there and I haven't even been through reading them all yet. And the amount of information on privilege I've got just from one session of Parliament happens to be the Parliament session that they must have really wanted to talk about it a lot, is an entire book worth, and that ain't even the whole session. That's just out of the whole sessions I've searched and extracted an entire book worth about privileges from an entire session of Parliament, which would just, for the little bits I've extracted, fill up a whole book, a whole novel worth, right, which is going to take me ages to read it all. That definitely was the session of Parliament of privileges after Parliament burned, because they didn't have a privilege committee for a while. So you've got all these convergence of laws where the police are actually committing an offence, but they're not. But then you're protected, but then you might not be. But then how do they find out whether you did something or not unless they ask you? But then they're deterring people from signing it, and then but they're also promoting the petition to people who don't know about it, which is illegal for the police to do at the same time. It's almost like Paris. It's almost like driving in Paris, a nightmare. It's like a traffic jam of a convergence, of a collision of law, because it's about an election. But it raises the issue, is it illegal for the police to canvass petitions as well as canvassing elections? Because, a lot of petitions you can have a referendum about. And the law says that if you're in the pursuit of anything in connection with a referendum or petition, is illegal for the police to canvass, really. Now, you can have a referendum about any matter of the government, really. But this is the thing. And we've got this map now that's meant to tell them everywhere that anyone's signed and how many people have signed from different areas. This is the thing. If the government ended up scrapping the Labour Party and scrapping the Tory Party and just had complete, voting on every single thing they put through Parliament from the public and not MPs, they would need to validate it all and make sure that it wasn't being, hacked, botted, scammed, AI or whatever, which is where you get people like Elon Musk coming in. Because how do we know, if we went onto this voting system where you can see how many people have voted for what on different matters all over the country, how do you know whether it's legitimate or not? How is it not hacked or controlled by Davros or Klaus Schwab, or the Tony Blair sat at home with his laptop, or whatever, and so forth. So that's the thing with it. But it'd save all arguments with MPs. But they're wanting to phase MPs out and replace them with people like Lee Anderson and Nigel Farage on television, who are more like this Hillary Clinton role of being the professor and guiding people or advising them, which Barack Obama's been doing some of that at universities around America as well. But they've been lying and committing fraud in that they've been trying to persuade people that the Constitution's no good and maybe they shouldn't have all these rights and ancient customs, which is quite odd for people who salute a flag and say that they're American, because these people really don't really want us to be deciding, and if they do have us deciding, they want to be the advisors. They want to be the shepherds guiding the flock, but they're actually the least qualified people to be guiding us. When it comes down to what should or shouldn't be the law, the people are the best. The people are the ones who best know what is good for them and what's not good for them. Actually, what does Hillary Clinton have a right to tell me what the law should or shouldn't be? Well, she doesn't. And if it's just general politics in general, she's terrible. These people have been hiding things from her. They've been denying our privileges from us. They've been lying about the law. And then laws that we need to know, like, you're not supposed to sign petitions 2 or 3 times or for other family members. They've been hiding that information from us because it actually reveals that the politicians are forfeiting their privileges, and they didn't want us to know that. And they didn't want us to know that we've got privileges when we're not acting fraudulently, when we're acting legitimately, we've got protections and privileges for these certain matters. And therefore, actually, the information we needed to know was being kept from us around most of these matters. So they're actually the cause of people being misinformed on it. So it really is a collision of multiple. It's almost like Faulty Towers. It's like a comedy sketch. The actual genius of whoever set this up, someone's kind of set this up, and the fact that it's Michael Westwood, and I've just found out there's actually a Crown prosecution case against Tim Westwood, the famous BBC DJ at the moment, who is facing some strange charges or whatever for past crimes. I think that it's some kind of joke, like some kind of Jeremy Beadley sort of joke, Ant and Dec sort of David Dickinson kind of joke. someone's orchestrated, or I'm not saying that there isn't a guy called Michael Westwood and he didn't create a petition, but it's almost like, then someone's like eyed it up and said, oh, this will make a good, we can make a point out of this. And you gotta find your ingredients to make things, you want to find 6 Lego bricks or, a piece of plasticine. What can we do? Look, there's Michael Westwood's got this general election petition. Oh yeah, that'll create some, things. Let's get a load of spam bots on it. And this, it's been, the ingredients were there, but someone's, needed it together and rolled it up and rolled it out into this event where it's gone up to these signatures. And then you've got Farage. It could have been Trump after Trump won the election in America. Farage has been helping Trump out. Trump might have. This part. I'm just throwing things out there with this part now. Maybe Trump or Elon Musk or someone got some spam bots on it. To help Farage maybe get an election so he could win it and beat Starmer. Maybe Starmer did it because he's furious that we've all got privileges and he wants to send the police round and scare or intimidate us all. But that's an offence. So if the police went around to everyone's houses, they would be committing a criminal offence by advertising the petition, deterring other people from the petition, illegally bringing information against you when you legitimately signed it, when you're absolutely protected, and then they're breaking the law and you can arrest them. But they need to ask you to find out if you didn't sign it or not. And you might not even tell the truth. And then who's going to confirm it? And then, even if someone did sign it fraudulently, how do they know that that's an offence? Because Starmer withheld the information, or not just Starmer, past governments have withheld the information from the Erskine-May book, which clarifies these matters. So they're the ones who failed to give the proper information. So, and then it's about an election, so it's actually a collision of laws, a convergence of different contradictory laws, which involves very complicated privileges. I don't think that the police should be sent round to people's houses, because I don't think that on the level of the magistrates' court or the Crown Court, which they act under, or even the Serious Organised Crime Department, I don't think that they can send the police round, because of privileges of Parliament would immediately remove you from going to the magistrates' court or Crown Court, for starters, and probably even Royal Courts of Justice. And it's actually a really serious thing to have 3 million signatures dumped on them Parliament, which could be serious. Well, it's like it's serious enough on the equivalent level of calling off an election, not calling one on, right? Because with serious disruption regarding elections, you have to call them off, right? Now, what I think the correct thing to do for Starmer, if he thinks that the signatures are sketchy, is rather than just appointing a subcommittee to help check through them all, which is a lot of workload to do for all those signatures for just David Baines and Jamie Stone and the staff, unless they've got room 704, like 007M headquarters with Q and some warehouse full of women with telephones, secretaries for Government Building X or whatever they fucking got, like on James Bond or whatever at the start of Doctor No, something like that. If they don't have that resource, they can have resources like that acting under Parliament's jurisdiction, but they don't do that all the time, because what's the point in having an inquiry, right? They appoint an inquiry and have a board, and usually it's, Sir Lancelot on the board, who's also happens to be a judge, but let's hope it's not Jonathan Swift, for fuck's sake, because he's a criminal. He helped the government raise money through the Liberty of London, and then later on in life, after they opened the new Supreme Court, he cut the ribbon on the Supreme Court, and then he's got himself a cushy job on the Electoral Commission after writing off the Liberties of London when 5 councils wasted everyone's money in a legal case, they didn't truly want to win, because the last thing they wanted to prove is that the congestion charge is illegal. So you don't want people like Jonathan Swift on the inquiry, because Swift is a criminal judge. So you want someone on the committee like, Professor Tim Wilson, maybe. I don't know whether Professor Tim Wilson has been affecting people politically in elections or not. I'm not sure. But, maybe someone like him, but maybe not him, but maybe someone kind of like him who's less over-enthusiastic on social media, There needs to be an inquiry. Starmer would have to appoint an inquiry with a board to investigate it. And then what they would do is they would call witnesses, and they would... no one's been prosecuted. The inquiry is to establish facts. And then once the facts come in, then action can be taken. They can refer it to the High Court for action and so forth. But I'm not too sure if it's under parliamentary privileges, if they can or not. But the inquiry acts under the jurisdiction of Parliament. I think they can refer it to the Supreme... I think they probably can refer it to the Supreme Court, I would have thought, if it was Parliament. So that's what they can do. As for Starmer sending the police round, I think that's illegal and criminal in this instance. As for Starmer's respect or the tosh that he's thinking of putting through, you can't conjure up anything in government which inflects on your right to petition, because that is against the Constitution, and you definitely can't punish you going out socialising or interacting in public for that. If you've committed some other crime or offence, but we're protected. If you've committed something like Extinction Rebellion which is meant to be for a petition or advertising or promoting it, or even Roger Hallam, and then if Starmer thinks that Roger Hallam was committing a public nuisance under privilege of Parliament, then he should summon him to Parliament and put him on trial in Parliament, and then Hallam can plead the general issue and possibly have pardon. But he shouldn't have been prosecuted in a Crown Court or Magistrates Court, and he shouldn't be in prison. These are the proper ways of doing things, and no one in this country can ever be, given antisocial orders or restrictions for engaging in petitioning, because you're protected from it, and not from any courts or PC plod walking round, So this is it, and that's what the law is in the Constitution. So in respect of the petition and what to do about it, Starmer should have an inquiry into it. 3 million signatures. If that's it. And if they're all legit, then or if a large percentage of them are legit and a very small percentage, or if enough of them are legitimate enough to 5% of the country, then why shouldn't they have a general election? If they all turn out to be bots, then Parliament doesn't have to debate it, whether or not they direct then some kind of legal action under Parliament's jurisdiction. It is a different matter, maybe for the Supreme Court, I would have thought, but definitely not police coming round, because they can't. It's definitely not local police. It's not a matter for local police. And like I said, a mass election interference warrants an election petition, which is run through different rules. The different rules of court. It's not actually kind of like a prosecution. They're trying to establish facts mainly. They're mainly trying to establish actually facts on what happened in the election petition, which is kind of a little bit like, it's sort of like an inquiry, really, in a way. You do have a prosecutor there. So I would have thought that if it's so big and serious with 3 million signatures, it definitely would be something that you would have an inquiry over, which is all about just establishing the facts and truth. The police wouldn't touch it or go anywhere near it. I think you can have a inquiry going on at the same time as police investigation, but not one where everyone's covered with privileges if they may or may not have signed properly. And if you're innocent until proven guilty, right? If you're innocent until proved guilty, then the police can't really get involved. The police, and if the police come to warn you, that's intimidating or even advertising the petition to households or other persons. So what Starmer needs is to know the facts and truth about the matter before he does anything, and he can only do that by having an inquiry, which is what the inquiry is for, to ascertain facts and truth before taking any further action. Sometimes inquiries can take years, but I would have thought, because it's straightforward, not like Hillsborough, it's quite straightforward. But this is meant to run for 6 months, although they're meant to debate it if you get 100,000 signatures. But then again, if they debate it on 100,000, are they going to carry on letting it run to potentially get more and force a referendum on having a referendum? This is the thing. Usually, if you get 5% of the people, you would have a referendum on having a general election. That's another twist on it. You get a referendum at 100,000 signatures, but what's the referendum on? The referendum to have a general election. So, would they have a referendum on whether we should have a general election or not? Which would be that would be a waste of money, surely, because by the time you've had a referendum on whether we should have a general election, you could have run a general election. So that's like having two. So whoever set this up is the genius of it. I don't know whether Starmer set it up. Judging by his response with all this absolute complete tosh about threatening people with police, he wants to scare people. All this law that he's bringing in. If he hadn't have said all this tosh law about signing a petition, I would have believed it. If he would have said, "Oh, we're doing all this tosh law just because you just behave badly generally," but because it's the petition and it's privileged with Parliament, then I know that it's definitely tosh that he's talking about. It's just complete tosh. It can't be done. What all that he can do is have an inquiry into it, firstly, to establish the facts and do it quickly. I would have thought, 3 million signatures is quite a lot. He could probably have the inquiry going along now at the same time while it's running for this 6 months. And if they can catch up with the signatures before it's finished and establish roughly how many of them are legit, then the inquiry could probably say, carry on letting the petition run. If they can get a lot of people checking, and that wouldn't be police knocking on doors, intimidating people and persuading them to sign or not sign, or trying to confuse them about their rights or whether they do or don't have rights. It could be done discreetly. Firstly, a lot of the emails can be checked from previous petitions by an IT team or possibly even 77th Brigade, as long as it's not used maliciously. There's a certain amount of online checking that can be done with the aid and help of AI to check through them. With the register, and the government could ring people up and ask them. They've got the majority of people's phone numbers. If it's a government inquiry investigation, they've got access to the phone book, yellow pages, electoral register. They'll have authorization to contact local councils who have got the phone numbers of many people. You're looking at the start of Dr. No with a room of people with their computers and specky four eyes sat there ringing people up going, "Hello, Mr. Smith, can I ask you if you signed the petition the other day?" This is the thing, but he might just lie and say, "No, I didn't." But what they're wanting to find out is people whose names are signed to it who didn't sign. I think that's the main problem, when it comes to, like, if people have signed 2 or 3 times or for other people, that's harder to prove. And even if the police come around, what evidence have they got? They're going to take every the 3 million people's devices from them. This is the thing. And devices are legally privileged if it's for a petition. So how can the police take it away? They should ring people up on the phone, and they should say, "Did you sign a petition?" And they say, "What petition?" or "No." Then they can say, "Well, that person didn't sign it." That's a start. They're going to have to start making 2 million phone calls. If it takes one person a minute to sign it to get 100,000, though, how many government staff is it going to take to ring up 3 million people and ask them if they signed it? It could take. They get these people together when there's a polling on. When Starmer wants to get voted in, he's extremely eager to get a sports hall filled with people sat there counting ballots, right? When Starmer's running for election in his ward, he stands there with a smile on his face, stood next to Jeremy Corbyn with their arms around each other, and there's all these people in this big sports hall, right, counting ballots, like, they count £50 notes, and then he stands up there next to the Monster Raving Looney Party candidate with a silly hat on, and then they say, "Keir Starmer, 5,625 votes," or whatever it is, or 100,500 whatever votes. Jeremy Corbyn, 27,000 votes. Monster Raving Looney Party, no votes, right? And Starmer's okay with that. Starmer's okay with spending, £809 award cap spending on, having an election in an area. But when there's this petition here, the only creative thing that he can say or come out with is, "I'm going to send the police around to all your houses," right? And badge you with, and badger people with their, respect order or whatever it is, right? Yet, you can't say, "I'm going to get a sports hall out, and I'm going to get, 500 women in there, and with telephones fitted in, that Elon Musk's provided, and I'm going to get a massive, walk-in with boxes of printouts of all the signatures, and they're going to put a box on each table, and then they're going to have the women sat there ringing people up, right? From there, did you sign this petition?" Right? Like some kind of thing out of World War II or whatever, which might take them a week or something, right? And then they say, right, well, this is how many people signed it, and this is how many people didn't sign it, right? And then they know. And then if, a lot of people signed it, it's illegitimate, then they can say that the petition's invalidated, and then we're shutting it down. And if there isn't that many people who didn't sign it, then they say, well, we'll carry on letting it go. And then you can have a panel of judges there, and that's an inquiry. And that's why the inquiry directed the investigation, and it's done. Either it carries on or it doesn't. That's a situation under the authority of Parliament, because all inquiries are under the authority of Parliament. I don't know why Starmer's got all this police bullshit from. It's like his go-to thing, innit? Like, the police. The police is his, like, go-to thing. Police. The police, apparently the answer for everything. I'm amazed that Starmer, we're not all police. Why doesn't Starmer just say, "Hey, I've had a great idea. I'm going to deputise you all. You're all going to take the oath, and, you're all having a uniform, and you all have to be police at different days of the week, But then if we're all police, then there's no one to arrest. And there's no one to ban from going out, because you'll all be going out on social, service duty, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whichever your shift is, right? Starmer needs to think about supplying all England with police uniforms, because he likes police so much that how can anyone leave school without being a constable? When every single child that leaves school at 16 is a trained police constable and has a requirement to do duty 2 days a week, right, on alternate shifts, then you can say, "You're all fucking banned from going out, and I've got a clampdown order on you all, and you can't wear red hats on a Tuesday, or you get arrested when you're not wearing your police hat on a Thursday," right? That's the problem with Starmer. Why, when he could do something more creative, like say, "Oh, I'm tripling the minimum wage." you know, and then you'll see some action. Then you'll see, you see Jeff Bezos turning up outside Parliament next to Clarkson protesting, but none of the Amazon factory will be there. You won't have 600,000 Amazon workers there protesting outside Parliament. It'll just be Jeff, you know, with the raindrops falling, raindrops are falling on my head. I'm Jeff Bezos protesting outside Parliament. Just me. Oh, look, Bill's here. Bill's protesting. You know, he's got an assault cannon. He's a very dangerous man, is Bill. Oh, he commands the world. But none of his staff are complaining. They're getting their wages tripled by law. You know, but it's just Bill and Jeff. Oh, he's got some kind of device in his hand. No, now Jeff's veins pulsing on his forehead. I think that he's got a button in his hand. I think he's gonna push it. You know, I think he's gonna blow. He's gonna blow everything up. You know, apparently he's got some dynamite sticks strapped around his waist, like some kind of bomber. Yes, apparently he's saying to Starmer, if he doesn't, you know, drop this idea of tripling the minimum wage, he's going to blow up everything or something like that. This is the thing, but there won't be millions of people there outside Parliament. There won't be. All the workers will have gone home and they'll be having a party like Boris Johnson, going, oh look, you know, tripling our wages. Let's have a party. You know, like Ken Lynch. You know, it'll just be Jeff and Bill. And Bill will be like, oh, I paid for this new Department of Innovation and Technology. And, you know, I don't want, you know, to have to triple all my staff's wages. I can't afford that. You know, then Charles won't have trillions at his disposal from a military style campaign for beyond leaders with trillions at their disposal. No, there won't be trillions at anyone's disposal. This is the thing. You know, this is the problem with this government. We should have done this in the 1800s. And you know, it's not going to affect any of these barons and earls or lords, because apparently Baron Denman wasn't on any money. He was poor. He didn't have any money. He was a mere lawyer, you know, who didn't get on with the king. You know, he didn't make any money out of his career, didn't Baron Denman? So, you know, some of these barons, I don't think it's necessarily about barons. It's about big business people, you know, whether or not, you know, some barons, but not all of them, some of them. So, you know, that's my opinion of it.